Hey folks, this is Johnny and welcome to a Take 5 video series special. This one is going to be on the Faderport 8, probably the single best independent controller next to the CS18 for Studio One for the small studio. And the great thing about it is it works side by side with the original Faderport. There's no need to get rid of the original Faderport, and they actually do make a great combination. It is not necessary to have one, but there's a lot of nice added benefits if you can spend the extra 100 or so on a regular Faderport, or if you already own one and really want to get the Faderport 8, they work beautifully together. So it's definitely worth the investment if you have the cash. Right now, from what I understand, they're running at about $499. That's pretty much in every music magazine that I've actually seen so far. You might want to check your favorite one, see if they're running a lower deal or anything. So what we're going to do in this portion of the video, for the first 5 minutes here, we're actually just going to go through basic functions just to see it work. And then in the rest of the videos, I'm going to be zooming in on certain aspects of the Faderport 8 so that we can really get deep into the effects adjustment. You can adjust effects. On this side, you can actually turn on and off effects either on a single track or shut off all the effects across all tracks with just the hit of a button. So it's very, very cool the way that they have this thing set up. So the first thing that I want to go through in general is just the fact that it works well with the Faderport. I'm actually going to hit Shift and I'm going to hit F3 to open up my mixer. And if you remember F3 on the keyboard, which you can't see, it's off camera here, F3 is the normal shortcut to actually open up the mixer. And the same goes for the F2, which is the editor, and then F1 in this case is actually for the inspector, as to where on the keyboard it's actually for the instruction manual. And then F5 is your browser, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to turn off Shift, and I'm back to the regular keys. These keys are labeled, and you'll see it in the later videos. Master, click, section, marker, and so on, and I'll show you all of those when we zoom in on those. But some of the more general ones I really want to show you is like being able to use the master fader. So let me open up the mixer. And the master fader was a big subject in some of the groups that I was chatting in. Oh, it's only got 8 faders. I want my 9th fader. Well, if you have a regular Faderport, here's your 9th fader right here. Okay, this can control your master fader right there. On the Faderport 8, you have several options to control the master fader, not the least of which is this big knob right here. And that is simply accessed by hitting the master button right here. And when you do that, now you can see the Faderport moving there. Now you've actually got control over the master fader, and you have a beautiful little feature here, is that you actually have a push button click option on this button, and it returns the fader to 0. I mean, this is great if you're just doing kind of a basic mix. You're like, okay, all right, I can't talk over this. I got about, boom. I can return it to it any time. That also applies to the single knob. There's some other how should I say, there are some other concerns with the fact that there's only one knob and no pan knobs for all these. There's a really good reason for that, and I love it. But any track that you have selected is this knob, and this controls your pan. And like this knob, track selected, knob turning, clicking it returns the pan right here. I want you to watch right here. Returns the pan when you click it to the center. Very quick and easy way to reset all of your pans if you have to. Just click, 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 and you should be actually good that way. All right, so let's see that. Move that back over. Go back to here. All right, so let's see. Let's get the general stuff out of the way here, so we can move on to the more focused stuff. So you see how the master fader is linked to the regular Faderport, and of course you have to have the output button selected on the regular Faderport in order for that all to work that way. I still have shuttle control. That was a little loud. I still have my shuttle controls with the Faderport. Record, all that stuff. I can actually do all of my soloing. See, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select channel 1 here. And I can do all of my mute, solo, record, I can arm the track. So I can do all of that stuff from the Faderport still. That has never changed. And it follows along. If I hit record here, you should see the record light here light up. And if I just disengage it as a punch out, it all follows. Now, all of these buttons here on the old Faderport are clicky, but over here on the new one, they're all the nice soft gel buttons. If you look at the color of the buttons here and you look at the color of the tracks, you can see they all correspond. Now, this is only for native mode. If you're in Mackie mode, that's not going to happen. I'll do a whole nother video on the options in Mackie mode at some point. But right now I'm taking care of Studio One native mode for the FP8. Should have announced that at the beginning of the video. But as I go through, you see the purple track is blue track is blue, and you see the yellow track is yellow, green, this tan orange, kind of pinkish purple. So it all goes along with it. All right, so there's another really cool option when it comes to selecting tracks, and one of the things in some controllers that just didn't work. When I use the FP8 to scroll my tracks, so let's say I'm going to go back into scroll mode, and this will give me the ability to, not scroll mode, I'm sorry, bank mode. This will give me the ability to bank my channels. So you can see that right there. I'm banking through the channels. And when I'm in bank mode, I can also use the wheel to really scroll through the channels, and it follows everywhere. So if I go all the way to the end, and let's say I click this one, I'm going to push click, you see the Faderport actually follows to the one you clicked. And it works in just the reverse as well by doing this. So let's say I'm looking at my screen and I'm on the last track here, but I use the Faderport to actually go back to track 1. So here's track 1. There's my kick drum. If I hit the select button, Studio One follows us to where that's at. So you don't have to worry about the view on the Faderport not matching the view of what's in front of you on Studio One. So it's very, very cool. Okay, so the last thing in general that I'm going to do before I start focusing on the sections is the panning options. Again, some people were saying, wow, there's no pan knobs. That cannot be fun if you have to select each channel and then do pans. No, PreSonus thought of that, and they did something even better. There is a pan option for the faders. So if I go to the bank that I want, let's go to the last bank here, and I hit pan. All of my faders now are my panning controls. And you can see that if you watch this track right here that's lighting up right here, and I move this, you can see the pans are moving. And this is really, really great for automation. And then at the hit of a button, I can just go bam, and I'm right back to my fader volumes. It's very, very nice to be able to do all of that stuff using the faders. It's a lot better than twisting a little knob and all that stuff. On the CS18, there is no fader flip option yet, and you have to use the knobs for the pans, and which is good. It works, but I prefer to use a fader, so that should work right there for you. All right, so now the last important thing I'm just going to go through in general is, of course, if you mute a bunch of tracks, you have your mute clear, and then if you solo a bunch of tracks, you have your solo clear, and that works on each of the banks 8 at a time that you have selected. So you can actually just unsolo or unmute a bunch of tracks per whatever you have selected on the Faderport in the banks, where you go like this. All right, one more thing for the master fader. If you really want a fader for the master, you see here I've got this selected audio, and this selects all the audio tracks. And again, I'm going to be showing what all of these buttons do. This one here is for audio tracks. This one here would show VST instruments, which aren't hooked up right now. This would show any buses, which we don't have hooked up right now. And this would show any VCA faders. And again, we'll go through that. But there's a button here at the bottom called All. So now if I hit All, it shows everything that's available. And if I scroll all the way to the end, you can't read it from there, but I'll zoom in on it after in that section of the videos. It says master and the one headphone out that I have. So if I move this, you can see the Faderport updating. You see the master fader updating right there. Or if I hit the master here and I use the knob, you can see everybody updating. I mean, it was really well thought out. And then, of course, if I want to return to 0 and I use the button option, You can just do like that, and we're right back to 0. Okay, so I hope that kind of gave you a taste of what's coming in these next videos. So I'm going to focus in on them section by section. We're going to find out what they do in each song. We're going to edit some effects. We're going to do a whole lot of things in this video series. So stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next video.